Hey, Mike,
What's up, Johnny?
what's going on?
Here I am. There I am.
Ta-da, in the club.
In Brad Garrett's club. I use this as my background since it's such a gorgeous club. I'm hoping that if he sees me, that someday he'll invite me to come play there.
That's awesome. Manifesting it. I love
Right.
that.
Or he'll sue me, and either way, I'll get
Either
some
way, you'll get
press.
the attention of Brad Garrett.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no bad press in this industry, right?
No, not really. It's an unfortunate truth.
Yeah, yeah. So, your word for the episode was Myoho?
Yeah. Have
So
you heard
why
of
did why did
Myoho
that come to
before?
your mind?
That's a Buddhist word. It sort of represents the mystic law of cause and effect, which is a sort of a philosophy to live by. And so it's a I mean I can go into detail about what it means,
Yeah,
but
go
it
for it.
yeah
Are
it's
you a Buddhist?
yeah I practice
Okay,
Buddhism,
cool.
Nichiren Buddhism. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
talk about like
practicing.
how you got into that and like what the meaning behind this word. I'm interested.
Well, I've been practicing Buddhism since the early 2000s, so I guess over 20 years now. And I'm not an expert to like teacher that can, easily explain all of the concepts of Buddhism, but I'm beginning to understand a lot of them. And one of the main concepts of Nichiren Buddhism is this idea of Myoho or the mystic law. And the mystic law is the law of cause and effect. You might have heard of The Secret, which was a movie,
Hmm.
a book and a movie that talked about this same thing. And it's about cause and effect. And it's basically, it's not religious or even spiritual. It's more energetic. It's scientific, and it's as steady as the law of gravity. The law of cause and effect says that if you make a choice and it creates a cause, and then that cause will create an effect that is corresponding, and you can't get away from that scientific principle. And so Buddhism teaches you in its own self-evolution to begin to be consciously aware of the causes that you put out. And then also it says if you are not happy with the present that you are in, it's because it's a result of the direct and indirect result of the causes that you've made in the past. And so the only sure way to change that for yourself is to create new causes and to stop making the old bad causes. And so there's a real philosophy to that where you're prioritizing your joy, and when you're in a moment of not joy, you're trying to figure out what are the causes that I made that led me to this, and how can I make
Hmm.
new causes that will lead me someplace different, someplace better that I picture. And you begin to piece together your life in a way that is more resulting of your own choices as opposed to the things that happen to you in life. It's
Right.
how you react to them. So
Yeah,
that's
I love that idea of having like agency over your own life, like really taking
yeah.
on the situation that you're in and taking on and going, okay, what led me to this point? And not really like you don't have to be hypercritical, I think, of the
No,
causes. It's more about like observing what those causes, what the effect was of those causes, and then deciding if you want to do something else next time.
it really is that.
Yeah.
You can't really go with judgment, and you can't go with blame. You can't go with anger. I mean, you can have all those feelings, of course, because you're allowed to feel whatever you feel when you're going through your life.
Hmm.
But those don't serve your joy very well. So it's best to take those negative feelings and have them, express them, process them, and
Yeah.
then push them, back to where they belong, which is, for the next thing that causes you those types of feelings. But don't hang on to them. Don't linger on them. That's where disease comes
Right.
from. That's where negativity comes from. And so that's why I chose Myoho. It's a real philosophy on how I live my life. In fact, I wrote a book. Where's my I don't know if I have my copy of it here. I don't, but I have a book called My Daily Joy Strategy, which is
Mm.
a cranky comics daily game plan for prioritizing joy. And so it uses this sort of concept to, in a fun way, give you a game plan for your day to prioritize that joy. And the thing is life is really difficult. So you're never going to feel joy all the time. And that's the
Yeah.
mistake that a lot of people make is like, if I'm not going to feel joy all the time, I must not be able to go for it at all.
Hmm.
But really,
Those are called heroin addicts.
they find their joy in a different place in one of their
They're
main
getting their
veins,
joy all the time, right to the
right?
end.
And that's why I won't try heroin because I figured I'm going to
Gonna
enjoy
like
it.
it too much.
So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to buy one overdose amount of heroin that I'm going to save when I'm really really old, and then when I can't function anymore, I'm
I
just
have
going to
the
break
same
glass
thing.
and go for that. Just go for it. People are going to be like, "Oh my God, that old guy, he's crapping
Uh,
himself." No, he's on heroin, man. He's going out the right way.
yeah,
Woo!
yeah.
Rock on, old man.
That's funny.
I'm finding joy. But that's the thing is you can't always feel joy. So what you have to be able to do is begin to balance more joy over not joy. So
Hmm.
if you're feeling more not joy over joy, that means there's an imbalance in your life, and you have to begin to trace that back to the places that are causing those joy effects. I mean, those not joy effects. And it almost is mathematical the way you can figure it out because you can really trace back, a lot of the negative things in your life to not that it's your fault that these negative things are happening, but you can see where choices you made have led to that area in life. And for instance, if you're a drinker and you're suddenly having physical ailments, you can trace back that your choices of what you're putting in your body has affected the way your body has resulted in, physically
Yeah.
in itself. And so you can begin to change those kind of causes and get different effects. And who's to say what that means specifically, but you can begin to trace it in that way.
Yeah, there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. I think that's what it's called. And it's all about that
Great
concept
title.
of like everything that you're eating, like it's all getting put somewhere in your body, whether it's decaying, like, they say that like too many Diet Cokes are like will kill your brain cells because of all the aspartame and like it goes somewhere. Like the body
Yeah,
processes what we take in some way. And I think the same thing happens with like social media, and we're not going to really realize the effects of it for like another 20 years, where you
yeah,
start seeing people that are just like porn addicts or just like chronically depressed because they're always like looking at people that are doing, infinitely better than they are, and they're like, well, why
right.
the fuck am I not on a yacht with like 15
Well,
mansions or
yeah,
whatever?
they're cherry picking all
Yeah,
the
they're cherry
moment.
picking life. It's like, dude, that's
Yeah,
not life. Like, go out and
it's not
touch some
life.
grass.
Cut to the video of the guy with the yacht who's paying his monthly due for
And
the
paying for the women that are on the yacht.
yeah, like having to like write a check to the pimp.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot
yeah,
for having them for the video. And yeah, and that's where my other books, the Funny Muscle books, come in, where I really prioritize laughter and making strangers laugh and making yourself laugh and finding the funny moments in life. And one of the things that I teach in those books is the idea of finding your own comedy lens, which is your own brand, your own sort of take on the comedy world. And when you can begin, whether you're a professional or whether you're somebody who's just an amateur looking to be funnier in your life, when you begin to recognize your own comedy lens, your own
hmm
brand, your own like I call it sort of the portal through which you look at the world, and so it's got your flavor all over it. It makes your humor more original and more relatable and more memorable and funnier.
Yeah.
And that brings joy into your world, into other people's world, and that helps to prioritize that when you can begin to think about like what's funny about these things as opposed to what's awful about these things.
hmm How do you like as a performer, like myself, I'm a comedian, and I know that there's other comedians that are probably listening to this as well. How does one like begin to define that lens? Because I think that a lot of times for comedy, we can have an idea of how we maybe want to sound on stage or how we think we sound on stage, and then other people are, perceiving us through a totally different lens, and maybe that lens that they're perceiving you through is actually more accurate to the truth. So
Yeah.
how does someone, I guess, define that comedy lens for themselves?
Well, in the books, I walk you through that because you're right. Your um, your journey into finding that out is it's kind of part of what the journey of being a comedian is all about if you zoom out enough as a comedian. But in the books, I teach you to find your comedy lens in a pretty simple way. what I do is I have four questions that you answer about yourself, and you answer these in great detail, a couple of paragraphs for each one. And the first question I ask is, what personal truths define you? Right? And so that really starts to narrow down things about you that you would not very likely tell to a stranger, an elevator full of strangers, but
Mm,
if you did, it would tell them a lot about who you are. Like, for instance, my personal truths are, I'm a male, I'm a dad, I'm uh, I have anger issues at times. I can be selfish, and you can just keep going down the list and blah
yeah,
blah blah
yeah.
blah. And so that's how you would start answering those questions, that first question with things that things about your sort of mental state. Like I'm on the Asperger's spectrum, so I'd mention that. There'd be things about like I've been known to micromanage people. And so I would put something like that in. So then the second question would be, what topics in life make you laugh? So that you answer that question and you begin to find out what is it about your humor that is unique. Like for me, what makes me laugh is when the high and mighty fall, including myself. Because
Right.
I set the world up to be on this pedestal to have to meet these standards, and then I never meet it myself, and I always look like a fool. And then the third question I would ask is, how do people who know you describe your humor? And like you said, the way other people describe you is might be different than the way you see yourself because you have
There's ego
you're
involved.
well, there's ego, exactly,
Yeah,
and when
yeah,
there's
yeah.
ego involved, you're not
You're like,
likely to
I'm this
see your
cool
weaknesses.
guy on stage. It's
Yeah,
like, that's
and
not funny.
that might not be where you're funny. It
No,
might be,
no.
yeah, and the things that make you the most interesting to other people are boring to you
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
you're
for
unique to
sure.
them, right? And then the fourth, and for me, people describe my humor that I'm sort of the guy who says the thing that nobody in the room wants to say, but we're all thinking.
Hmm.
And I'm sort of the one who brings a voice to things that don't normally have a voice. Like I can make your desk have an attitude about your stinky feet underneath it.
Right.
And then the fourth question is, when are you at your funniest? And that's when you try to examine when your humor works the best. Mine is when I'm with people that I don't know, also with people who I do know, but definitely in social situations. And so you answer those four questions, and then what you do after that is you cherry pick the answers to those four questions for all the nouns and all the adjectives that describe you. And then through that, you use a template that I provide, which is, basically like Johnny is the blank blank. And then you start to mix and match adjectives
Hmm.
and nouns to sort of see what describes you. And so for me, I could be the selfish brother, Mike Lukas, the old coach, or whatever. But I could begin to so, and then you have a whole list of the ones that and then you try to pick one that really will aid to your writing and sort of describe the brand of humor that you have. And so mine, I'm the clumsy Aspie hole. I'm
Okay.
uh, I'm on the Asperger's spectrum, and I've never been officially diagnosed as being on the Asperger's spectrum.
Self-diagnosed.
No, but I have been accused of it
Oh,
constantly by my
okay.
wife. So I
Uh,
know that there's some truth to it. So I've had to.
right.
I always thought I was neurotypical, but it turns out I'm not. I'm more identify with people that are on the spectrum, which is no longer identified anymore as Asperger's.
Right.
It's talked about as autism.
I saw a video of a guy that had like an autism reveal party, like a gender reveal party. He went and got tested from the doctor,
I
and
love it.
then he put like the results in the piñata.
Oh, that's
But
great.
what's so funny is as the video goes, he breaks open the piñata and all these puzzle pieces fall down. And then
My
they're like,
God,
he's like,
they got to
oh,
put it
he
together,
actually, yeah, yeah, that's just showing more how autistic this guy is like,
right?
he
Who who
separated the results into a puzzle
who
and
else
then
would
he
who else
went to
would
a
think that
different
that'd be
room to
fun?
put them together.
Right. This is gonna be great. Woo! And then he
So
then he
good.
micromanages how they're putting it together. No, do the edge
Yeah.
pieces first. Edge
Yeah,
pieces
yeah.
first.
That's so funny. But how
Yeah.
did this like because the Finding Your Funny Muscle is like a 3 book series
Yeah.
and I like that I'll share it here for people to see. I like that you split it up into like focus topics. So like the first
Yeah.
one being, finding what makes you funny, then the second book being fine tuning that and then flexing it. So it almost even like if you're a comedian looking at these joke books for, extra knowledge in the industry, which I think that we all should be constantly like seeking to learn.
Yeah.
When I was like 3 years into comedy, I took a comedy 101 class at Second City because I was like, I don't know everything. I'm 3 years in.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
could definitely use from so this for sure, like I probably would more come into like maybe fine tuning and getting the flexing, but if you're just starting out, finding it could be the best thing ever for you.
Well, and here's how I would describe the three books. If being funny was like driving a vehicle, book one teaches you how like what the vehicle is made up of. It just teaches you the vehicle, and it says here's what your car looks like. Here's what the engine. Here's how you put gas in it. Here's how you operate the steering wheel and the pedals. Book two teaches you how to drive around town. It teaches you how to take that car and use it in different scenarios around town so that you're driving and now you're actually using this vehicle. And the third teaches you when and when not to drive. So that's how I always sort of tell
That's
the
great.
what these three are for. So for someone like you who's more experienced, the first book is still going to help you out because what it's
Right.
going to do is it's going to teach you what I didn't know when I mean I did the Tonight Show and I did the Conan O'Brien show and I had my own TV show on A&E and I had all this experience on in the public, but I didn't understand my own methodology for how to write material. And so what ended up happening was I got to a point where I couldn't recreate more material without taking a lot of time, which is how it took me in the
Mm.
first place. It took me 7 years to develop the material that I blew on TV in 10 or 15 minutes, right?
Right.
But
Yeah,
you've been
yeah.
developing
Which
it, you're,
Yeah,
right? You've been
I'm a
learning how to do
hundred
that.
percent behind what you're saying there because I've done the same thing where I've there are some jokes that I have where I haven't recorded it on anything, but they're like 7 years old. Like
And
it
you're
took,
still
and I'm
working on
still
it.
finding new ways to expand
Right.
on them. Yeah, so it's
If you're
like,
at all a good comic, you're
yeah,
going to be adding to it. You're going to be relating it to other jokes in your
yeah.
repertoire so that you have chunks
I
now instead of
just now added another 5 minutes to a joke that was only a minute that I had been
love
doing
it.
for 5 years. Like I was like, where
Yeah.
was this other 5 minutes on the same material? It's crazy.
Yeah, and so that first book is for someone like you, what it would do is it would solidify what your branding is like. So you would have to begin to really identify instead of just I'm funny, how are you funny? And then what it would do is help you with your writing in that way, so that you can begin to look at every topic, turn that into a premise based on who you are, not just on the fact that this is a funny idea, but more like it's fun. Here's why it's funny to me, and here's why
Hmm.
I'm even choosing to talk about this. And then what it does is it shows you I call it the humor blueprint, which is a premise, setup, punchline outline that adds a bunch of other elements to it so that it's clearer. Because the premise, setup, punchline is kind of like that's what they teach us, and they go, here's the secret. Now go ahead and do it. But they
Yeah,
don't really
yeah,
tell you how to do it and how to break your
yeah.
ideas.
Right.
The idea that it's got this format, but there is a definite format to how you tell a joke. You have to have a premise, which is your topic with an emotion added to it, so that it makes it more personal. And then there's a setup. You're setting up the audience for a misdirection. You're setting them up to think that this is going to go in a normal way. And then there's a punchline, which is your answer to the setup that's different than what they were expecting, but it still satisfies that setup. And so I have 36 humor heightening devices that help you do that, so that you can work your way through that. And that's what the second book does. Is it takes those concepts and it works it through step by step with the same premise, which is my teenage daughter oversleeps on weekends. So I take
Mm,
that and run it through the humor blueprint, and then I run it 36 times through each of the
right.
humor heightening devices, along with other examples of real comics that use them. And that then it teaches you how to have a writing session where you're uh, creating this material that you can use at your open mic. Right. And I get that a lot of people are like a lot of comedians are like, fuck books, fuck classes. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
No, no, you're good.
But a lot of them are say that 'cause, like,
Yeah.
the only way to be a comedian is just get out there and do it, stand up on stage.
Yeah, that's
And I
the
get that.
definition
I
of
get that some
insanity,
people aren't
though.
book learners. Right? Some people aren't class learners. Those are the
No.
people that dropped out of school because they can't stand that format. But there's a lot of us who are book learners and who are class learners. And
Yeah.
like you, you took that original class. I'll bet that really helped clarify a lot of things for
Oh
you.
yeah.
Second
And
City
it
is
established like connections too. Like I got to
yeah.
meet like really cool
Right.
people that were also in that class. And then you know what's easy? The easiest way to go do open mics is to find somebody that you like that's also a comedian and go, let's go do open mics together. Because
That's
now you have that accountability of like we gotta go do it. And if you're not doing the new stuff that you said you were gonna do, I'm gonna call you out on it. You know?
right. And
That
I'm
I
gonna
think is
just
really
I'm gonna
important.
be by your side while you're going through something that's real stressful because open
Yeah.
mics are stressful. You got to learn to enjoy like an
It's so
open
easy
mic.
to bail when you're by yourself.
Yeah, in fact, it's funny. Just last night, I went with a friend to two open mics, and we both did a set at each one of them. And the first one, I didn't make the list. I
Huh.
had signed up online. She made the list, but I didn't make the list. And I was like,
Mm.
all right, well, you know what? I'm going to just show up because I've never been to this open mic before, and I'm going to introduce myself, like you said. I'm going to network. And
Yep.
sure enough, I show up. I meet the host, the woman in charge of making the list. I told her, "Hey, listen, I'm ready to go. Here's a couple of people that are on your list that know me, that they can vouch for me, and if there's any open spots, put me up." Sure enough, she comes up and whispers in my ear, "Hey, you're next." And
Nice.
I went up and did a set.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it just works
It's
out
all
that way.
proximity in this industry. You
Yeah,
have to be at the show. You have to be
yeah,
there for things to actually happen. You can do so much online, and then you have to get, I think, into your local comedy community and be
got to.
meeting these people that are running the entertainment in your area, basically.
Yeah, and it was they both were fun sets. One was at a comedy club and one was at a bar.
Oh,
So there were
cool.
two different types of sets that we did. And it was great because I have my methodology with I use with my books, now I can set myself up to have something to try out at these open mics. So
Hmm.
I have pages of stuff that I've written that I can memorize and I can go, okay, here's a joke about my dog howling, thinking that the sirens are his friends that are in
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah.
And I can begin to try that joke out and see like, well, how does that work? How do I get that across to strangers who don't know my
Yeah.
dog, who
Now,
could give a shit?
in the refinement process, do you have a section of like, okay, now you've written the joke to the point where you think it's funny and you've taken it out and performed it. Now, what is the refinement like process from your teaching for a joke? I know
Well,
what my personal refinement process is, but I'd be curious to know like how you
sure. No,
refine
yeah,
for.
no doubt. Yeah, the thing about comedy and any kind of writing, and that's what comedy is, it's writing.
Yeah.
That's when I teach at the Dallas Comedy Club, and that's the first thing I tell the students is like, if you're not writers, you don't want to do this class. Go take an improv class because
Yeah.
then you can just show up. But this is
Yeah.
you gotta write. But that's writing is about rewriting. And you know that as well as anyone because you're a successful comic. And so you have bits that work and you know they work and they didn't work necessarily the same way the first time you did them. But you rewrite it and you rewrite it and you rewrite it. And the way that I talk about that is in your jokes, you begin to see that you develop these games that you play. And by games, I mean there's a combination of worlds. I call it the frog bank. Frogs aren't funny and banks aren't funny, but when you combine a frog and a bank together, now all of a
Right.
sudden you can see like a cartoon or like the Family Guy that you can picture a bank that has frogs in it. Instead of money, they have flies.
Yeah,
Instead of a
yeah.
security guard, there's a big bullfrog with a big belly and whatever. But you can see how it's like a cartoonish kind of funny, but that game, the idea of combining frogs and banks together over and over again, that concept is what you're trying to discover about your own act. What games are you playing? What worlds are you bringing together? And these heightening devices that I have, the 36 heightening devices I have, these are things like it's simple things like sarcasm, things like exaggeration, but there's also more complex ones like cut forward to, or cut back to, or contrast. They do it like this in LA, but they do it like this in Chicago. And
Mm,
so different heightening devices that you can apply that will help you clarify the games that you're playing within your act. And so in answer to your question, you could refine these things by clarifying the games that you're playing and begin to play it better and more clear. And if you reverse engineer professional comedians bits, you can see the games that they're playing and you can reverse engineer to see how they set those up to play them. And you can
right.
And you can go, oh, I see. When you're doing a contrast, here's how you set up a good contrast. Like Jim Gaffigan sets up a lot of fun contrasts, and you can just watch him do it and go, okay, I'm not going to steal his material, but I'm going to watch him and learn how he sets up a cut forward to a future situation, and he acts it out. And I'm going to say, oh, I see how he does that. And you get begin to refine those moves of your own act, and that's how I would suggest that you and you begin to refine your delivery type. That's what I
Hmm.
talk about in the third book in flexing your funny muscle. I talk about how you have to begin to see what not only like what delivery style you have, but sort of what cadence you deliver with. And there's almost a musical element to good
Yeah,
comedy.
big
There's
time.
rhythm to it. Yeah. If you ever do editing, you can see the waveforms
You can see the
that you
beats. It's
act, and you can
crazy.
see the beat. It's crazy. And
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
watch
yeah.
somebody who knows what they're doing, like
Yeah.
your Steve Martin and Lenny Bruce and the
Oh yeah,
back there,
yeah.
and Johnny Carson, you can see the swell and then the reduction and then the swell and the reduction, and there's a real pop 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 thing happening. In fact, one time Drew Carey was working at a club where I was a regular at. This was at Bonkers in Orlando, Florida, and Drew
I
Carey came
love the
in,
name of comedy clubs.
right? Isn't it funny? The Chuckle Hut.
Chuckle. Yeah, I was just gonna say Chuckle Hut.
And so Drew Carey was talking about he goes comedy's all about rhythm. He goes you set the audience up, you train them to have a rhythm, and then once you get that going, if you're true to that, you can get them to laugh at any joke because whether it's funny or not funny, because they know that that's where they're supposed to laugh and they like you, they're
Right.
going to do that. He goes, I'll prove it to you. He goes, give me a word, any word, and I'll work it into my act and I'll get a laugh off of it. It has no context whatsoever. So we said something like I don't know, like jellyfish. And so he goes, fine, I'll use jellyfish. And so he goes up there. He's doing it. He goes, give me about 7 minutes to get them warmed up. And so he goes up there and he does his act for 7 minutes. And then sure enough, he goes, pa 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 jellyfish. And the crowd goes, what? And then he stops for a second. He goes, told you. And then he just continues on with his act. But
He was
he's good.
playing games. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he showed us that that's
Yeah.
what this is about, is this rhythmic quality to your musical quality to your delivery.
There's a way too that you can actually see the rhythmic quality in the writing. So a comedian from Canada, Todd Van Allen, gave me like some great advice. He was like, you after you do a set, take the recording of the set, listen to it, and type out every word that you're saying. Every 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 right, every like whatever, every single word. And whenever, and you do it like, what's it called? Kind of like paragraph style so that it's like even on both sides.
Right.
And then he says, whenever
Justified.
you get a big laugh, hit the enter button so that it goes down to the next line. And then
Nice.
you can see an actual a visual representation of how long it takes you to get to that
Like,
laugh.
there's a lot of words before
Yeah,
that
if it's
one
a
laugh.
big, big, big block of texture, like you gotta cut some of that out so that you can get
Yeah.
to it faster. And yeah, I was like, you can see the sort of rhythmic quality in the writing as well.
Yeah, that's a really good exercise. And it doesn't hurt to see where your uhs and ums are and to see how often you say them because
Yeah.
those habits and that goes to another piece of advice I give every comedian that I teach and coach and talk with is record your sets, and it's painful to do and it's painful to listen to your sets because sometimes you're not in the mood, but you're on stage for a half hour, an hour a night if you're lucky. Most of us it's 5 or 10 minutes if you're lucky, and you're the rest of the day you have to work on your set, and you don't have the ability to be on a stage to do that. So the
Hmm.
next best thing is to have a recording of you on a stage, and you can do that verbally or orally, I guess, AUR. Um, with your recording, but then with that recording, you can type it out and do what your friend said, which is a great piece of advice. And then visually, what you can begin to see is I waste a lot of the time setting up something that doesn't need to be set up so long. Because I've done that with my students. I've go, look, here's your laugh. What do you have to say to get that laugh? Because
Right.
everything else you're just saying because you think you have to say it, but you don't. So, and then they have two sentences that they say to get that laugh instead of 16 sentences.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Great.
word economy is so important when it
Yeah.
comes to that because it's like people's attention span is just gone. Like
Yeah.
and it's throwing off the rhythm.
Yeah.
Like if you like you turn on a song and you're like, oh, this is my favorite song, and I can't wait to hear the chorus. But then it's like some live version where they've added like 5 minute solo to the front end of the song, and you're like, just get
Uh,
to the
Get
chorus.
to the chorus, for God's sake. That's why I'm here.
It's the best part. What is taking
Right.
so long? Like, yeah, sure, the solo's great, but like the chorus is what I came for.
Yeah, and it's sort of masturbatory. It's for
Yeah,
the
it totally
comic
is.
musician, not for the crowd. And now, if you're a jam band, that's different. But
Yeah, yeah.
when you're
But it's
when
it's a comedian versus a TED Talk, you know?
right, well, and the thing that a lot of newer comedians are trying to do is fill time. They don't have a lot of time,
Totally,
and so
totally.
they think that just because they're talking, that's a legitimate way to fill
It's
that
it's the
time.
5,000 word essay assignment, and therefore that is why I have
Right.
considered this is the right
And George Washington's original thoughts were, yeah,
this
and we,
long diatribe of
yeah.
nonsense, nothing.
And because God forbid you should go, like if you're supposed to do 5 minutes and you do three on an open mic set,
Yeah,
God forbid you should get off early because you don't have anything else to say. Like you instead you just talk some shit so that you can fill the time. And instead,
totally.
it's better to have jokes that you can try out that you can just uh, get reps on.
Yeah, yeah, totally. There's another thing I wanted to ask you about. So I totally commend you for doing this because I think a lot of people um they throw away everything for like if it means a bit of a career in Hollywood, and like for you to be in LA to be doing all of those things but then recognize like yo there's a financial crisis happening right now. I'm not gonna just live on the streets so that I can keep doing comedy or like, and then to move and then to pick back up to a point where now you've written like 3 books on it and you're still doing comedy and you're still in the industry. Like what was that like transition like for you in that moment in time?
It was rough, man. That you're talking about 2008 when the housing
Yeah.
crisis hit and everything we had going in LA collapsed. My wife and I were both working for CBS. We were doing a radio show for CBS.com, and she was doing some prep work for some stuff that was upcoming. And then the whole FM talk industry collapsed. That's when Adam Carolla lost his job, Tom Likas lost his job, Tim
Wow.
Conway Jr. lost his job, and everybody. I mean, they got hired again, other stuff, but basically their FM talk reign ended, and we were on that same station, and so our we had a show, a weekly show called Gretchen and the Lukes, cracking up, and it got lost with all the other shows. And so we had to make a decision. Do we want to keep trying to work this out in LA, or do we want to go back to Cleveland where I grew up? And the thing that convinced us is we had a baby. That's right when we had a baby. And so we were like, it's one thing for the two of us, two grown adults, to be homeless on the street because we're trying to make a dream come
Yeah.
true, but to have a baby with it too. And then we had our second baby in Cleveland, and then that's when I decided it was like I was, I got like a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm touring around town and around the country, and then I come home and I'm like, hey kids, it's me, it's Dad, and they're like, remind us,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
right? And it was
Ah,
sad, and so I took 10 years off, and so that's right up until last August. I hadn't done a set at all, and now I'm
wow.
back doing sets, and it's crazy, man. I don't know how much time you've ever taken off, but you lose. I say it's like, like when you're on a treadmill and it's really, really
Yeah.
fast, and then you jump off the treadmill, and then you try to get back on, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this is perfect. And it's just what it feels like to
Totally.
get back into the comedy world. You forget how fast the world moves.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've done that too. Right when I started comedy in 2011, and then I did like a few sets, and then I had gone to college for policing, so I thought I was going to be a police officer, but I just
Oh,
tried
okay,
comedy while I was in college, liked it, then tried to do policing for like 3 years, so I was like volunteering with like victim services and like trying to coach soccer teams, whatever I could to build a good policing resume. And then I
sure,
had another person I went to school with reach out to me. She used to work for MTV and she was like, they're looking for comedians. Are you still doing comedy? They want like a host for something. And I was like, I'm not, but I'll film something and then submit it
yeah.
because that would be cool. So then I did that. And the second that I did comedy again, like in 2014, I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like
Daddy's home.
I caught it hard. I was like, oh man, that's it.
Right.
So then I did that right up until the pandemic, and
Ah,
then
that
COVID
killed
hit.
everybody, man.
Killed it, man. So like, what an awkward time, eh? Like I'm doing it for 6 years straight.
Right.
Open mics every night. Like I have a whole life. I have a whole plan. I just started doing shows in the U.S. Boom, COVID hits, shuts everything down. Then I'm like, I don't know what to do with my life. So I make a hip hop album because I had always wanted to do that. Spent two
Nice.
years doing hip hop, and now I'm back to comedy and doing a podcast. So.
Oh, that's great,
I just sort
man.
of follow whatever my passion decides to focus on. I go,
That's it.
let's
That's what
just
you
go with
should do.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a piece of advice that comes from experts that says that you should follow your joy and have no expectations what it should be, but then once you take that as far as you can take it, follow the next thing that's joyful to you.
Totally.
And if you take that path over and over again, you're gonna enjoy life a little bit better. It's hard though because there's some negativity that comes around, that people are just naturally negative, and it's hard to be
Like
positive around negativity. But
there's
but
a lot of bitter people too, right? So and
yeah.
there's a lot of people that are like, this is the way you're supposed to do it. And you're like,
And they get
no.
mad when you do it differently because
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
reminds them
yeah. It's
that
like
there's choices to be made.
exactly, and that they've sort of pigeonholed themselves in
Yeah.
what they think is success. And they see someone else doing something that actually brings them joy, and they go like, well, how is he
Well,
allowed to go do that?
he's
You
not allowed
know,
to do that.
he's
I
not allowed
I
to do
haven't done
that.
that.
When I made a hip hop album, I was like, oh, anybody can just do anything. Like it doesn't have,
Yeah.
for me, I was like, doesn't even have to be good. I just want to do this and I want to release it to get this off of my head, like get it out of my head and get it done. And then
Right.
I'll go do whatever I want to do. And I'm so happy I did because doing music actually made me feel the rhythmic beats of being on stage as a performer.
Oh,
So
good.
now my comedy, I can feel this sort of like rhythmic beat to my premises, to my setups, to my
Right.
punchline. And I know if it's off too. If it's
Yep.
off, there's something in the crowd that I need to address, and then we need to get back to
Good
what
for
we're doing.
you.
Yeah.
That's real smart, man. That's real smart that you let the two art forms affect each other.
Yeah. And it was like totally on accident. Like it's not even like I was trying to, but when you're recording like a song every single day and you're working on something and it's like you're trying to be on beat and then when you
Right.
try to be funny, you just can't help but not try to, you know,
You gotta
give
have that
some
thing.
rhythmic
Yeah.
flow to what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a real if you're organically rhythmic that way, there's a real disruption that happens when something doesn't go or rhythmically that way.
Totally.
You're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
get rid of that word, get rid of that sentence.
Yeah, yeah, you feel it.
And I imagine too with hip hop, I've never done any hip hop, but I imagine that there's a cleverness to the lyrics. And
Yo,
so
you can be
even
funny.
if you're not trying
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
funny, you're trying to be clever and in the way you're saying sometimes some typical things, but you're
Double
saying,
entendres were big
yeah,
too, like a lot of
right.
that. So
That's a that's
they're
a
like the
height
same.
that's a heightening device we call wordplay, where you and then innuendo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine that cleverness bleeds over too, because you have to be clever to be a comedian.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
and even like misdirecting stuff, like it's all very similar writing style when you really think about it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then
you're
you
just
can now
writing funny poetry.
you can have right, yeah. There was a young man from Nantucket.
Yeah.
You can have your hip hop music bring you up on stage
Yeah,
now.
that would be smart marketing.
Then you can sell it after the show,
Sell the records after, get a bunch
Right.
of records
Oh yeah,
pressed.
man,
Yeah, yeah.
merch. It's all about merch.
Oh
Some
yeah. As a
comics.
Canadian, we need to like take more notes from Americans in that way of like sell merch, man. What are we doing here? We're
Well,
too
the thing,
proud. Like people will go like, "Pff, what are you like a Costco? Like you got all this stuff over here?"
no, well, here's the thing. You're like there's definitely like you can get to be where it's like that and
Sure.
it's kind of gross. But the crowd loves you. They want to take a piece of you home with them.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
giving
yeah.
them a chance to do that and you're making extra money because it takes pressure off the club to have to pay you exorbitant fees in order to get you to be in there because now you can make an extra $1,000 that week doing selling merch.
And it goes circles right back to your cause and effect of like
Exactly.
you if you want to make money at this, then you are accountable for how that happens. You can't depend
Right.
on a club owner to give you a big cut. You can't depend on maybe the person you're opening for to give you like a good amount of money. You make it.
You have to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
and that's a really good point. That's a good cause to make, is to say I'm going to have another means to bring money in, another income stream.
Yeah, no, totally. I think especially with social media, it's right there. Like it's
Right.
so easy. And with AI, it's even easier. I told two people like friends of mine that were like, "Oh, I want to think of like a second stream of income." And I was like, I just have like these ideas all the time, but I don't want to actually do them, so I just give them to people. And if someone's listening to this and you want to do it, by all means, go do it. You could very easily go on ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT to write you a Marvel workout plan, like get fit in 6 months, and make it like a workout journal. So where they can enter in their weight and their repetitions, whatever. You put that into a PDF, you upload that to Amazon Books. They sell it as a workout plan so that people can just like print to order. And now they've printed and ordered this like Marvel 6 month Get Jacked workout journal where they can take that to the gym with them and write their reps and write their weights in. Like
Boom.
e easy. You could literally just make like a diary journal where it's just blank pages. You're just selling paper. You know, you're just getting a cut on paper. Like there's so
Right.
many ways that you can make money. It's insane. You just have to think about it.
Yeah, you have to figure out ways that bring the income to you. And as a
Yeah.
comedian, you have a group of people, that a group of strangers that you make friends in the time that you were up there. And I always say to my students, when you're funniest is like when a sitcom is funniest is in the third season, second and third season,
Yeah.
not the first season when we don't know the characters yet. And as we get to know the characters, we get to enjoy them before they even open their mouths. We know, like, uh-oh, here comes Kramer. We know what he's going to do.
Right.
And so that's the same should be with your comedy, and your comedy lens helps with that. If you can have a clear idea of who you are, and then you can get that across in your first 5 minutes of jokes, now all of a sudden the crowd says, "Oh, I know who this is. I can relate to them. They're like my uncle. They're like me. They're like my dad. They're like my sister, my cousin." And now they're memorable, and I want to have something about them that reminds me of this cool connection that I just made with them.
Right.
And so that's
Totally.
where the merch comes in, and you especially if you do something that's cool, like if you have something that's like a reproduction of
Lighters with
your
your face on it
right.
or
I used to have a T-shirt that had a black silhouette of I have a bald head and it's got like
yeah.
a unique shape to it. So
Okay.
I have a silhouette of my head, and then where the
Oh, funny.
eyebrows are, it said Mike Lukas.
Oh, cool. That's
That
yeah,
was
that's
it. And
fun.
people
Yeah,
bought them
yeah,
up, man. The
yeah,
people
yeah.
loved them.
If it's
And
a cool
so,
design, then you're like, yeah, I'll wear that. Like, look at band tees. Like,
right.
people are wearing Metallica shirts. They couldn't name three songs if they tried,
But they just look cool.
but
The
they're like,
shirts
it's
look
cool.
cool.
It just
Yeah.
looks cool, you know? Same thing. People wearing sports jerseys or whatever. Like comedians, we need to have that same sort of branding or marketing. Get better
Well,
at it.
yeah, it's important to begin to differentiate yourself because we're one of many. We're
Yeah.
one of many, and
Oh
people need
yeah.
to know like what like because they want to be an audience. They just don't. There's certain comics they don't want to be an audience for, and there's certain comics they do. So you have to let
Hmm.
them know what kind of comic you are, so that your audience can find you.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, there's one question that I always end the podcast with, and I ask every one of my guests. It's essentially what advice would you give to your younger self? But I always add more context to that. So I want you to think of you at 15 years old, where you were at that time, what you were doing, and the phone rings and it's you now on the other end. You could give your younger self a piece of advice. It's not going to impact your life at all. Your life is already set in motion. All the causes have been given effects, but you might change his. What do you say?
Oh man, I would say everybody's not thinking about you the way they're thinking about you. I would say, um, relax, brother, relax. It's not the serious thing that you think it is. I think I have a lot of social anxiety, and I had a lot of insecurities about how I fit into the group. And so I think that's a lot where my humor came from, was to combat that.
Mm,
And that's also where a lot of my alcoholism came from, was to medicate that, which is why
yeah,
I don't drink anymore, is because it doesn't serve me
good
that
for
way
you.
anymore. But I would say to myself though that um, there's other ways to deal with that feeling that you are not worthy, but you are worthy. in that group. But you're not going to find that out from everyone else. You're only going to find out from yourself. And
Mm,
that's the key is you need to come to that conclusion yourself because no one else will ever tell you that. And if they do, you won't believe them.
right. Wow, I
So,
love that. I'm going to share your Instagram here for people watching on YouTube. Thank you. Hit that subscribe button. It's M Lucas with a K and then 1111. The links are always in the description below. Go to funnymuscle.com to get all three of the Funny Muscle books: Defining Your Funny Muscle, Fine Tuning Your Funny Muscle, and Flexing Your Funny Muscle by Mike Lukas. Again, Lucas with a K. Mike, man, it was a pleasure chatting with you.
yeah, I loved it, man. You can also get my other books at mike-lucas.com. That's another website I run that has my other books, including my newest one, which is it's called Spin Kick: The Hiss of Death. It's
Okay,
a
cool.
it's a martial arts vigilante crime thriller.
Oh, sweet.
It's like
Cool.
an airport book. It's like if Jack Reacher and Kung Fu the show combined. It's sort of like that, and it's getting good reviews. So definitely check that out.
I love that. All right, man. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Take care, bud.
See ya.